During the course of the last year, the rise in hate crimes and hate incidents have been impacting our community. The Korean American Coalition has come together with the DA's office to educate the community about the differences in hate crimes and hate incidents and the process of prosecution. We would like to encourage the community that it is critical that they continue to report hate crimes and hate incidents and receive the help and support from law enforcement and the government, as well as community-based organizations. Today, we are here with DA Paul Kim from the LA County DA's office to share more about hate crimes and hate incidents. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I just want to start off with asking you, what does the current climate of prosecuting hate crimes look like in your office?
Well, as everyone knows, it has been the past couple of years, hate crimes nationally have been receiving a lot more attention. And I think it's important that everybody knows that hate crimes in the DA's office are taken very seriously. The hate crime allegation is one of the few allegations that Mr. Gascon is permitting prosecutors to allege, prove, and seek sentencing on. And I think that goes a long way to show that the administration is taking hate crime prosecutions in LA County seriously.
When should someone report to law enforcement versus a community-based organization like a nonprofit?
If you feel that you are the victim of a crime, if you're witnessing something and you think somebody else is going to be a victim of a crime that's going to entail some violence or the infliction of violence, it is incredibly important that you contact law enforcement immediately. Let's say, for example, though, a day has passed and you're now at home. Let's say that you don't feel that a crime occurred, it just really bothered you, it disturbed you what happened, and you want to make sure that it's documented. In that case, you should reach out to one of the many amazing community-based organizations that are here in Los Angeles County. They will do several things. First of all, they'll make sure that the report is documented, where it happened, when it happened, whatever description you have of the suspect. The other thing is, if there's no police report, the community-based organizations can help you when it comes to getting victim services. If you're a victim of a natural crime, then the State Victim Compensation Board can come in and help you with relocation, medical expenses, things like that. If there is no crime report that's generated, then the community-based groups like 211 can help you get the medical attention that you need or the counseling that you need to kind of, grasp the hateful incident that just happened.
Thank you for sharing that. After reporting to local law enforcement, what does the stages of prosecuting a hate crime look like?
Well, it all starts when LAPD, LASD, or any of our local agencies come into the office and they have a police report. It's a detective, and they request a filing. The DA's office, we have a very strict standard for filing cases. The DA has to personally believe that the case can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt to 12 people. Once you've made that determination, then a complaint is filed. Now, a criminal complaint starts the ball rolling. After we file the complaint, we do a preliminary hearing, at least within 10 court days of the arraignment. And at that stage, the judge makes a judicial determination whether or not there are sufficient facts to make a finding of probable cause and to hold the defendant to answer on those charges. At that point, the complaint is now an information. It is filed in another courtroom, and a jury trial is set within 60 days.
What makes a crime a hate crime? Can you share some more specifics?
Sure. The easiest way to really examine all this is through the lens of the First Amendment. In this country, you are allowed to associate and say things that can be bigoted. You're allowed to say and associate with people and hate other people. What the First Amendment prohibits is you threatening somebody so that they feel that they're going to be subject to imminent bodily harm. But if you want to just insult them, if you want to just do a verbal slur, that is permitted. I think the best example is like you have somebody on a bus and another individual comes up to the passenger and just starts saying a lot of racist remarks, a lot of unkind remarks. That may be a terrible thing, and that may be incredibly impolite. It's rude, it's It's beyond rude. But it's not a crime unless you say something that puts that person in fear for their life, such as, well, I'm going to kill you. At that point, if you take the exact same facts, the exact same parties, you now have a crime because of the additional words, I'm going to kill you. But without those 4 words, it would just be a hate incident.
Thank you for sharing that. It brings so much more clarity. What are the factors that determine whether a prosecutor will pursue a hate crime charge?
You know, we look at all of the evidence. We look at what happened. We look at whether or not we can meet our evidentiary burden, which is to prove that the offender committed the crime because of one of the substantial motivating factors being a bias animus, a bias motivation. If we feel we can prove that bias motivation that caused the crime substantially, then we will file a hate crime allegation using the same standard, which is, can we prove this bias motivation to 12 people beyond a reasonable doubt?
Could you please share what constitutes a hate crime enhancement, please?
Of course. Here's what that means. An enhancement attaches to a crime. So we could take, for example, battery or burglary or theft. The enhancement kicks in because the offender is committing the crime, but the additional mental act is the offender is targeting the person, making the person a victim because of a protected characteristic, whether it's their race, their ethnicity, their nationality, their faith, a disability, or their sexual orientation. It is the targeting, making somebody a victim, not because of the crime, but because of that protected characteristic that makes the hate crime allegation imposable as a separate crime, which is 1, 2 to 3 years for an individual and 2, 3 to 4 years if it's 2 or more people that are committing the offense.
I see. I feel like I'm back in law school again, receiving lecture in crim law. Thank you for sharing that. I would like to add, what kind of support is there offered to victims who face hate incidents or hate crimes?
That's an important question, Eunice. And it does matter whether you're a victim of a hate crime or a hate incident in this determination. For example, if you're a victim of a hate crime, then the State Victim Compensation Fund is available to help you recover any expenses, and the District Attorney's Office has victim service representatives that will help you when it comes to your lost wages, any medical expenses that you have, any relocation expenses that you have, and any mental health counseling that you need as a result of being a victim of crime. If you are a victim of a hate incident that doesn't rise to the level of a crime, there are still services available to you. The 211 organization is an outstanding partner, and they have resources available to help victims of hate incidents receive mental health counseling that they may otherwise not be eligible for through the traditional law enforcement route. So I think that was a great question to let the community know that there is and there are services that you will be that will be available to you whether you're a victim of a hate crime or a hate incident.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's critical for victims to know that there is support beyond just the work that they have to do to report the hate crime or the hate incident. To wrap things up, I just want to ask, can you provide any advice for our community, what they could do in general during this difficult time with the rise in hate incidents and hate crimes?
What I'd like to suggest to everybody is we start with ourselves. Hate is something that is learned. It is something that we have acquired at some point. It's not something we're born with. And I think if we start with ourselves and our friends, we start with our families and our neighbors, and we just try to increase our tolerances, whether it's our tolerance for people that look different than us, whether it's our tolerance for people that speak differently than us, or whether it's our tolerance for people who practice differently than us and what they choose to worship or who they choose to love. And I think if we start with ourselves and the values that we're teaching our children and our friends will broaden, and inclusion will follow with it, and acceptance will follow with it. I do believe that the community is the linchpin, is the bulwark against hate crimes. It's not, one person can't do it alone. You can only change a small group But if the community works together and you let your voice be heard and say, well, in this community, we won't accept this type of conduct. If you go to the meetings, if you go to the candlelight vigils, if you reach out to your local politicians, you can make your voice heard resoundingly, and it will have an impact on the entire broader population. So we have to speak out. We have to do what we can to try to look at any of our own biases that we have and try to address those. It's a constant, it's a work in progress for the community, it's a work in progress for ourselves, but we can improve ourselves and we can make a better community for us and our friends and family too.
We thank you so much for coming out here and spending your time. It really means a lot that the DA's office is willing to come to get to know our community better and to share this important information with our community. We really encourage all of you to come together, to stand together against hate. Thank you.